Hello there everybody, it is me XfreezerBunny, or should I say, Привет, меня зовут XfreezerBunny. Either way, welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. If you couldn't tell, I tried to give you my best Russian introduction. I tried my best, but that's the best I can do. Sorry if that was cringe by the way, but of course you already know, if you've read the title, we are building a traditional Russian cottage known as an Izba. I believe this is a type of house that can be found all over Eastern Europe. I was specifically inspired by the Russian variant. I was rewatching some of my favorite films over the holidays, and one of the films that I love so much growing up is Anastasia. Now, I didn't watch the film, but I have recently discovered that there was a musical for Anastasia, and I have been listening to the Anastasia musical soundtrack non-stop this past couple of months. And I also wanted to do kind of like a wintry themed build, so I was like, you know what, why not travel to someplace I haven't been before as far as builds are concerned and go to Eastern Europe, Russia specifically, and build this traditional cottage. I believe somebody also requested this at some point. So here you go. I hope you all enjoyed this. I definitely enjoy building this. I had so much fun building this house. This is also kind of like a farmhouse as well. I wasn't originally planning to make this into a farmhouse, but it kind of just turned into that because, as I said in my last build, I have been doing quite a lot of farming gameplay recently. And yeah, this whole gameplay that I've been doing kind of just carried on over to this build, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love learning about new styles of architecture, and as you all know, I particularly love exploring vernacular architecture. And I know it's the first time I'm bringing up that term, but yeah, vernacular houses, I've been doing quite a lot of them, mostly Asian houses, but I thought it would be interesting to, you know, take our build to another location, and I figured, you know, why not go to Eastern Europe, because I feel like that's such a fascinating place in the world. It's not as mainstream as like Western Europe as far as I know, but as you all know, I also love the Witcher franchise, and I have also been watching a lot of that over the holidays, by the way. But yeah, just to clarify, the Witcher franchise is mainly inspired by Polish folklore and literature, not necessarily Russian, but they do tend to share kind of like that Slavic mythology. So yeah, it's quite interesting learning about that. But as for this house specifically, this house has 2 bedrooms, and one of my favorite aspects of this build is actually a Russian stove that we will be building in just a little bit. But right now I'm just working on this beautiful woodwork that we find in traditional Russian houses. These are so beautiful. The wood carvings and the wooden details just really take me back to that one musical number in Anastasia, if any of you guys remember, Journey to the Past, which is by far my favorite like song from like any animation movie. I listen to that song like at least once a week, maybe more. But yeah, that song number in the movie actually shows like some traditional like wooden cottages, and I was like, you know what, let's do it, let's go there. And Anastasia is just something that's so nostalgic to me. I absolutely loved the Don Bluth films growing up. If you guys aren't familiar with them, it's kind of like an animation production company, similar to Disney, that kind of rose to prominence in the late 80s to like the 1990s, which is kind of like the time when I grew up. And definitely by far my most favorite Don Bluth film is like Anastasia, even though I also really love Thumbelina. I don't think Thumbelina's as good as Anastasia, but you know, this is just nostalgia speaking for me, by the way. So yeah, I feel like Anastasia is so underrated. Like, we all talk about Disney, we all talk about Studio Ghibli nowadays, but I mean, I gotta give props to Anastasia for literally being one of the best like princess movies. I don't even know what to call that genre, but I always say, kind of like as a troll, that my favorite Disney princess is Anastasia, and I don't regret it. I absolutely love Anastasia, and I'm fascinated by the whole history behind it as well. You know, I know that the cartoon has a lot of, you know, artistic license because it's more of like a fantasy adventure film, but if you guys are familiar with the musical, I believe it takes away all of the fantasy elements and just focuses more on the politics and stuff like that, which is something that really interests me. Unfortunately, I don't think they've released the Anastasia musical publicly, which is so disappointing. I would love to see it for myself. If you didn't know, it's the one with Christy Altomar as Anastasia and Derek Klena as Dimitri, which, by the way, amazing casting, by the way. Also, the music is insane. It's insanely good. I'm not a big musical person, but if I had to choose, I would probably choose like Anastasia as like my favorite musical ever. And probably second place would be like Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, but I'll save that story for another day because right now we're actually building my favorite aspect of this house, which is this fully functional Russian stove. Now, I've only discovered this as I was researching this house, but yeah, basically this is a pretty iconic feature of traditional Russian houses, and it is the Russian stove. So I'm using these tile pieces from Spade, my favorite item ever, to basically make the shape. And thankfully the Russian stoves are kind of like all white plaster, so these items were kind of perfect for that. It took me like a good 1 or 2 hours to do this stove, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. The main thing that worried me was the lighting, because you can kind of see that the tiles are kind of like taking the light a little bit differently, but it doesn't bother me too much. Hopefully it doesn't bother you guys too much. But yeah, it's fine. I did put this in the house itself and it doesn't look too bad in my opinion. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this came together. I'm definitely going to be sharing this on the gallery by itself. For any of you who wanna, you know, like use this on a different house, maybe, you know, I think this could work in like a less traditional house, you know. I've seen some quaint like contemporary cottages that have this as a feature, which also, can I just say, I would love to see this as like an actual feature in The Sims. Like, if any of you guys remember in The Sims 3, we had like the wood fire stove, which came with like an Italian themed DLC. I feel like we could have like a Russian themed DLC, and like the main like premium content for that would be like a Russian stove. I think that would be so good. I don't know, that's just probably me, but I love the Russian set that came in The Sims 3, by the way. I have it, I bought it. It was really pricey because, you know, The Sims 3 gallery, The Sims 3 store was pretty expensive, pretty overpriced in my opinion, but the items were pretty amazing. And yeah, I love that. I would love to have some like proper like Russian fashions. Like, I think that would be a really good kit. I don't know, because I tried to dress up my Sims in like Russian outfits, but I don't think it turned out so well. There really isn't that much in the Creative Sim catalog to, you know, make it look like it's properly Russian, but you know, I tried my best. But anyway, back to the stove. I just realized that, you know, people actually slept on top of the stove. Like, there's a sleeping area on top of it sometimes. That's why I added like a ladder, which isn't obviously functional, but it's there for like aesthetic purposes. You know, you kind of get what it's supposed to do. Also, like, there's like a little hole in the stove as well, which I believe is where they put like clothes sometimes to dry, because as you all know, one part of the house building process that I really enjoy is research. And as I was building this, I was actually reading up on like you know, like PDF documents, whatever I can find on Google Docs on like traditional Russian houses. And let me tell you guys, it was not easy because a lot of the resources are just not available in English. So I also had to resort to watching like YouTube vlogs as well from, you know, people who live in Russia, and it's really interesting to see that kind of perspective, and I really enjoyed it actually. I think I would like to do like a proper Russian farmhouse at some point, like the one with like the underground barn, because this one has a barn actually, but it's a separate building from the house. I'd like to make one that has like a proper like underground barn, because that's like a really unique building. I don't know, we'll see, because I also want to do like a Polish cottage at some point, or like a Slavic inspired build, because yeah, I'm really interested in the whole mythology. Also, speaking of mythology, I believe there is like a mythical creature that lives in the fireplace. I forget what it's called, I'm sorry, but yeah, I believe there is like a little house spirit dwarf thing that lives in the fireplace. Is it a vodnik? I don't know. I don't think it is, but yeah. I believe it starts with a B. It's on the tip of my tongue, but yeah. Anyway, moving on to this main room of the house. So one thing I found out is that the Russian houses are like divided into two. There's like the women's corner and then there's the men's corner. I'm not sure if that's taken literally or just like symbolically. But yeah, the women's corner usually has like the stove and has like the kitchen, and then the men's corner has like the work tools and stuff like that. I tried to capture that in the layout of this house, but I also kind of tried to make it, you know, more of like a modern house, if that makes sense, like something that's more suited to like the Sims lifestyle. So we can say that, you know, maybe this was an older house, but it was renovated over the years as well. But yeah, I there is this main room right here, and of course the main focal point is the fireplace. I'm just throwing in some wood over here to make it look like they're kind of like, there's like a stack of wood over here in the corner, and there's also like a kitchen dining area. The dining area is like a little bench, which is pretty cool. I've seen a lot of that in traditional Russian houses where they would have that kind of like dining table area. And one architectural feature that I also noticed was that they had this like, I forget what it's called. I think it's called like the red corner or like the beautiful corner, where they would put like their icons. I actually don't know the specific word for this. I believe it's like an iconoplasty, something like that. Basically a place where they would keep all of their religious images. So I tried to incorporate that in this build as well, using these old looking portraits, which in my opinion kind of pass off as kind of like icons. But yeah, and I also chose a table that had lace in it, because I noticed that that area tends to have a lot of like fabrics decorating it, and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I just kept matching wood tones. I actually considered using brighter colors for the outside. I will probably post this on Twitter, but I had like different schemes of like color schemes that I was choosing from, but I ended up going for like just the plain warm wood that we ended up with, because it already looks amazing. So yeah, I just love the matching wood swatches. Thank God for Cottage Living for giving us matching wood swatches, and a lot of the island living and eco lifestyle wallpapers also match, so that's pretty cool. And right here I am actually working on, I believe this is a samovar, which if I'm not mistaken is kind of like a hot water kind of like container. So yeah, I tried to make one as best as I can, using an urn of all things. This is the closest thing I can find to make the base for the samovar, and then some upgrade parts, and then I just covered the urn with some pots because I did not want to use the urn by itself, because I feel like that was a little bit morbid, so I tried to cover it instead, and I'm really happy with it. It's a feature that you would find quite commonly in traditional Russian houses, so I made sure to incorporate that. And one thing that I also incorporated were these like dried flowers, dried herbs, because I also noticed that they had quite a bit of that in traditional houses as well. So one thing that I totally did not really focus on when I was doing a lot of my cottage living builds was actually the cross stitch aspect, and I only really got into it when I started playing in my own personal gameplay. As I told you guys, I did quite a bit of farming gameplay, and a lot of it was played in Henford on Bagley, and I love Henford. I think it's probably the world that has the most character thanks to the presence of the NPCs. So in Henford, you're actually required to interact with the NPCs to get certain items to upgrade your barn or to upgrade your chicken coop. And one of the quests that the NPCs give you is to make like a cross stitch. So that's one aspect that really got me into that aspect of the game that probably I wouldn't have explored by myself, but because of that quest, I actually really appreciated cross stitch, even though I still didn't make my sim do it. I just made her like learn it for like that one quest. But yeah, can I just say, like, barn and coop upgrade parts are really hard to come by. Like, I had to work really hard to be able to upgrade one of my barns and coops because I wanted to like make my cow like live forever, or like one of my chickens live forever, because I get so attached to the animals. I know I can turn off aging for animals in like the options menu, but I kind of wanted to have like an in-game canonical feature to kind of like stop them from aging. By the way, I also mentioned this in my last video, but unfortunately farming is pretty glitchy right now. There is a in-game glitch that resets the plants into an earlier life state, which is really disruptive for me, and it almost turned me off from actually doing any gameplay, but I still push through. I just, you know, I'm just eagle-eyed monitoring my plants and checking if they've reset, because I'm trying to grow like some dragon fruit. That whole aspect of like growing dragon fruit has been completely nerfed, by the way, because when I first played The Sims 4, like this was way back in when The Sims 4 was released, dragon fruit was not that difficult to make. You just basically had to graft roses and snapdragons, right? But now I believe they nerfed the whole like percentage of like, I don't even know what it's called, like the likelihood of you getting dragon fruit is like 1 in 200, which is insane. I have like 20 like spliced roses and snapdragons, and I played for like an entire sim year. I had not had a single dragon fruit. I feel like that's actually a glitch, to be honest. I feel like they're just saying that they made the likelihood of getting dragon fruits less, but I feel like that's actually a glitch that hasn't been fixed. I've had more luck getting dragon fruits from like the rare seed packet than actually growing it myself, and it kind of sucks because I would prefer to grow it myself. So yeah, that's my rant for the whole glitchy Sims 4 gardening aspect. Hopefully someone fixes it. But yeah, as I was ranting about that, I totally talked over the bedrooms. The bedrooms are pretty straightforward. One feature that I noticed quite a lot in Russian bedrooms was a lot of carpets being hung on the walls. So I tried to hang some carpets on the bedrooms in this cottage. By far my favorite bedroom would have to be the blue bedroom, which has a single bed. I did make this house for more of like a younger couple. They probably don't have kids at this point, but you know, maybe if they want like a relative to stay over, maybe like one of them has a sister or something, they can stay in that room. Maybe actually for an elderly relative as well, I could see also living in that room. But yeah, that one was my favorite. And in the bedrooms, I also put some skill items, you know, specifically weaving skill items. Like I use quite a bit of items from Nifty Knitting as well as from Cottage Living, and I feel like it works because I believe that is also one aspect of the Russian lifestyle that is quite common, is that women tend to do a lot of weaving and all of that good stuff. I've seen some really beautiful like blankets and fabrics that have been woven in Russia. So yeah. Moving on to the outside, we have a separate barn, which I did see in some Russian houses, even though the more traditional ones would have the barn like under the house. That's where they keep the horses and the cows and the livestock basically. I didn't make this build for that, but I might do like a proper like Russian farmhouse at some point. Also, I noticed that if you put an item on the shrunk up barn, it would actually block it. So I just left that like little house thing looking in that in the front entrance of this barn. I really can think of anything to hide it. If you guys know anything to hide like the actual barn item that doesn't block it, please let me know, because I tried looking for items but it doesn't work. I tried blocking it with that hay thing, but it's still, you know, it still blocked the item, which is really annoying. But yeah, I just threw in a bunch of items in here. I threw a workbench in there as well as a bunch of hay bales and all that good stuff. I did test this out and the cow does work fine. You should be able to interact with a cow, you should be able to clean their house and stuff like that. I have played with a similar barn setup for my own personal gameplay, so I'm pretty confident it will work for you guys as well. And I also threw in a chicken coop over here on the side, even though I think realistically you'd probably like to keep the chicken somewhere in like the barn area as well, but yeah, I didn't have space over there on that side, so I just put the chicken coop on this one corner over here of the lots. And there's also like a laundry area over here with a little water pump. But yeah, I think that's actually pretty much it for this build. I hope you all enjoyed it. I actually had so much fun with this build and I'm really excited to hear your guys' thoughts. But anyway, that's going to be it for me for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.